What's up, Kadivas, and welcome back to another tutorial. This is going to be for this cute recreation of the infamous Ganni blouse. This blouse I see everywhere on Instagram, on TikTok, and people have really played around with the fabrication, with the placement of the bows. And in this video, I'm going to be showing you guys how to create the sewing patterns, how to cut and stitch the blouse. I have made mine with this cute cherry print, which you guys voted when I put up on the community tab. It was between this cherry print and I think a llama print, and this one got the most votes, so here we are. It's very appropriate for spring, summer. It's very girly, it's very fun, and it is cotton, so it is nice and breathable for the hot summer days. So if you'd like to see how I made this blouse, make sure to keep on watching. Don't forget to tag me if you do recreate this blouse for yourself at Kim Dave Designs. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy it, and let's get into this project. I'm going to be working with the following measurements to create the sewing patterns for this top. They are here listed on the screen. In addition to that, I'm going to be adapting my basic sleeve to create the puff sleeve pattern that this blouse has. Now my fabric of choice is this gorgeous cherry print. This is a cotton print and I have 2 meters of that. I also grabbed myself some bias tape to help me finish the front edges as well as the neckline, and then to contrast on the front, I'm going to be using this red cotton to make the ribbons red and have everything with the same material. So I'm going to get straight into making the pattern for the bodice, and I'm starting off with this short horizontal line on the top here. That's going to become my shoulder line, and along that line I'm going to be marking half of my across the shoulder measurement, and then I'm going to be marking 4 inches inwards. That is going to become my shoulder seam width, and then I'm going to drop by half an inch from this point like so, and then connect it in this manner so I have my shoulder slant. The front neckline is 3 inches below the shoulder line, and this I'm going to mark on this bottom edge, which is like my center front edge, and I'm going to draw in a round neckline. The blouse has a simple high neckline, hence why I'm just sticking to this design at this point. Once I'm done doing that, I'm going to go in to mark my half length, which is basically the length from the shoulder to where your waistline is. Mine is 15 inches, and that I'm going to be squaring across so I have a clear hemline for this top half of the blouse. After marking this particular point like so, I'm going to go in and mark a quarter measurement of my bust plus 1.5 inches ease. The silhouette is quite boxy and roomy, hence why I'm adding a lot of ease. Then the next step I'm doing is marking the vertical distance from my shoulder to my bust, and that I'm squaring across. This line I need to help me draw in the arm curve or the armhole, and then the side seam is essentially just a boxy silhouette that goes up from that quarter bust measurement upwards to the bust line. After drawing that in place, I am drawing in the front arm curve, which essentially just sits in this manner, and I'm not forgetting to add a notch to indicate that that is the front arm curve. So I'm just adding annotations here to say this is the front. I need to cut 2, as well as my grain line and seam allowance around the pattern before going ahead to trace it off for the back. Now the back is essentially the same along the hem, along the shoulder, along the side, but it is different along the neckline and along the arm curve where the sleeve is going to sit. It is a lot shallower compared to the front, which just dips in a little bit, and to differentiate them I'm going to be adding 2 notches to show that that is the back. The back neckline is 1.5 inches below the shoulder line, so it's not as deep, and it's still the same around neckline that I'm just drawing in place like so. So once I'm done drawing in or tracing off the back pattern, I'm going to add grain lines, annotations, and the back I will be cutting on a fold compared to the top that I'll be cutting to pieces. I'm going to add the annotation saying that this is the back as well before cutting out the patterns for the main top half of the blouse. The next pattern I'm going to work on is the ruffle piece, and for that I'm measuring the hemline of the front and the back top pieces and taking note of that measurement because that's where the ruffle piece is going to sit, along that bottom of this top bodice. Once I have that measurement in place, I add them together and then I multiply that by 4 to give me the length of the ruffle piece. So that is going to be a long rectangular piece, and to do that I'm drawing in a long line like so, and my piece is going to be 8 inches wide, so it sits just above my hips. You can have yours longer or shorter. Once I have that 8-inch marked, I'm drawing in the bottom edge of the ruffle piece. And my ruffle piece ended up being, for this particular piece here, my plan is to go in and cut a rectangular piece that is 39 inches long, but I'm going to cut 2 pieces of those. So when I add them together, I have the total length of that ruffle piece. So I have added in my seam allowance in this pattern piece. I've added my grain line and annotations, and I'm cutting out the excess paper. So this is what the third pattern piece for this project looks like. Once the ruffle piece is all done, I know I can shift my attention to working on the next pattern for this project, which is going to be the sleeve. And for the sleeve, I'm adapting a basic sleeve pattern to save me some time. This I've done from a previous tutorial, or you could trace off from like a t-shirt sleeve just to have a shape that you can work with. The first thing I'm going to change is the length. Mine is going to be 3/4 and I wanted it to be 15 inches, so it sits around my elbow, and I'm going to be drawing in the new hemline. Add a hem allowance of 2 centimeters to that before cutting out the extra part on the bottom edge of this sleeve. Once I'm done doing this, the next thing I'm going to do is to divide the sleeve pattern into 4, because yes, I am going to be slashing and spreading to make a puff sleeve. I have a dedicated puff sleeve tutorial. If you want something more concise and more detailed, you can check that out. But essentially, I'm going to divide the pattern into 4 separate panels and then add extra measurement in between, which I'm going to be gathering in on the sleeve head and on the sleeve hem to make the puff shape. The more you spread the panels, the more dramatic the puff will be. These are all of the sleeve panels cut out into 4 separate pieces, and I'm going to be spreading it in such a way that it has 1 inch added on the top and then 2 inches added on the bottom. Looking back now, I feel like I should have definitely added more along the bottom to make the sleeve even more dramatic, but it worked. The outcome still looks really cute, but if you want more drama, more volume, yes, add more along the top and the bottom as well. So I'm just going in to repeat the same 1 inch addition on top and 2 inches on the bottom. And once I have all of the panels spread out, I'm going to need to connect them along the edges. So I'm connecting them along the sleeve hem with a curved edge like so. And then I'm going to go into the sleeve head, or the top of the sleeve, and connect the panels as well. So we have one piece that once it's cut out, I can use to cut my fabric. Don't forget to transfer your notches, so the one on the top of the sleeve, the one indicating where the front and the back is, before cutting out the excess paper around the top, the sides, to have that sleeve pattern all done. So these are all the pattern pieces I ended up creating for this project. The last one I made out of camera was the one for the ribbon, and the dimension of that particular pattern piece is 12 inches long and 1 inch wide, and I'm going to need to cut 3 pairs of those to make the ribbon pieces that go on the front. That's how you fasten this top, or that's how you get in and out of this top. So all of my pattern pieces are done. I know I can go ahead to cut out the blouse using those patterns. So I've pinned them down onto my fabric, and I'm going ahead to cut out the sleeve, the front, the back, the ruffle piece, and then on the plain red fabric I'm going to cut the ribbon, because one of you gave me that idea actually on Instagram to have the ribbon as a contrasting color, and I think it's such a clever idea. I'm going in here to cut the notches to help me know what parts match with what parts on my garment, especially around like the arm curve, the hemline, important parts that when I'm sewing things together, it just takes away the guesswork. So these are all of the pieces for the top cutout. I ended up cutting 2 pieces for my front and then 3 pairs for the ribbon. I have my long ruffle piece, which I cut 2 pieces off, and then my front I cut 2 pieces, and my back just 1 piece on a fold. Moving on to sewing the top, the first thing I'm going to do is join the front and the back of the top together along the shoulder and the side seam. This I'm just going to be doing with a normal straight seam, and then afterwards overlock that seam to secure everything nicely on the inside. With this part of the blouse all done, I know I can shift my attention to the ruffle piece that sits on the bottom edge, and because I have mine as 2 pieces, I'm going to be joining them up on the center back edge before gathering one side, which is going to sit into the hemline of the bodice that I just connected together. So this I am sewing with a long stitch I'm going to pull to create the gathers, and then I'm just hemming the bottom edge so I have that done and out of the way. I'm folding it in by 1 centimeter and then just hemming it across, and this is what it looks like so far. So I'm just going in here to pull the threads to help me to create the gathers. You can do pleats, but the original design they were like gathers, so I'm just like sticking to the inspo as close as possible. So once our ruffle piece is all gathered up, I'm going to grab the bodice or the top half of this blouse, and then I'm going to be connecting them together along the bottom edge of the blouse. These I'm going to connect in such a way that I distribute the gathers as evenly across as possible, and because I notched things, my life is a whole lot easier. I'm going to be sewing it up in place, only 1 centimeter seam allowance, and after stitching that up, I'm going to go ahead and use my overlocker to just secure and finish off this seam on the inside. If you don't have an overlocker, you could use a zigzag stitch on your machine, or you could use the French seam method, or you could use bias tape to finish that seam on the inside. So this is what the top is looking like so far. It's coming together really nicely. If you even wanted to have your design sleeveless, it's actually not a bad idea looking at this now. But I'm going to use my bias tape to help me finish off the front edges as well as the neckline. And starting from one edge, I'm just starting from this particular side, I'm going to be sewing up the bias tape open like this with the bottom edge folded upwards to conceal this raw edge. So this I did in stages. So I did this side first before doing the neckline, and then the other side. And to finish it up, I'm going in to roll it back against on the inside of, or on the wrong side of the top, folding it twice to conceal the raw edge, to conceal the seam, and to help me finish that particular edge of my blouse. So here is a closer look of how everything is looking like so far. Like I mentioned earlier on, I did one front edge, and then I did the neckline, and then I repeated the same thing on the other front edge. So I have that entire part of the blouse already finished and out of the way. So it's looking good, it's looking really cute so far. I love how relaxed the fit is, and because of how you tie the ribbon in the front, you can adjust how tight this sits around your body. I'm going to go ahead to work on the sleeve, and for the sleeve I'm going to gather in the sleeve head, just the top edge of the sleeve head, and then I'm going to put right sides facing each other, sew up the side seam in preparation to be connected to the armhole of the blouse. Off camera, I went ahead to do the gathering on the sleeve head as well as overlock the seam allowance on the side seam and on the hemline. And I'm going to move on to creating the elastic tunnel on the hem of the sleeve. So this I'm going to sew across, leaving an opening for me to pass the elastic through. And it's worth making a tunnel the same width as your elastic. My elastic is about 1/2 inch wide, hence why I'm making a slimmer tunnel. If it's a wider elastic, I would need to make my tunnel a lot wider. So through the opening, I'm going to pass my elastic band through. My elastic band length is the same measurement as my elbow, my around elbow measurement. So that's how wide I cut my elastic. Just be mindful that it is long enough so the elastic does not cut off your blood supply because it's too tight. It's better to have it on a like semi-fitted or comfortable fit than rather have it too tight. Once the elastic has been passed through and arrives at the other end, I'm going to be stitching those ends together to secure the elastic on the inside of the tunnel, trim away any excess, and then go ahead to sew the opening that I left for me to pass the elastic into this tunnel to secure this particular part of the design. This I repeated on the other sleeve, so join up the side seam, gather the sleeve head, make the tunnel, add the elastic, and both sleeves are done and looking really cute. So these I'm going to be inserting into the armhole of the blouse, and I'm going to be matching side seam to side seam, sleeve head to sleeve head. The sleeve opening on my bodice is on the wider side, and thankfully because it's a puff sleeve that added extra measurement, it worked. So when you are joining your projects together and when you're making your pattern, it's worth just measuring your arm opening and your sleeve head to be sure that everything would work together nicely. The final part of this project is the ribbons, and I'm going in here to fold and sew the ribbons. If you have the tool that allows you to turn really slim ribbons inside out, you can do that, or you can even use like a nice already made ribbon if you don't want to make yours like I'm doing like so. But I wanted mine to be a particular material in a particular color, hence why. So the placement of the ribbon is like this. So there is one around the waist, there's one on the collar, and then there is one that sits around the bust line. I think for me, I just put it on my body and then I just put a pin where I wanted my ribbons to be. So that's like kind of the best way to get your ribbon placement, like fit it on yourself. If you want more ribbons, you can actually do that as well. But the original design has 3 ribbons that sit across the top half of the blouse. I'm going to take this to my machine and stitch the ribbon into the front edges. I'm trying to sew along the stitch of me using the bias tape earlier on so nothing looks out of place, and I'm going to repeat the same thing on the other side to finish up this blouse. I gave all of the seams a nice press to relax all of the stitching, and I love the fact that this blouse is so comfortable on. You can wear it without anything on the inside, or you can wear like a complementary camisole or vest underneath if you don't want to show your skin. It is so comfortable, so easy, so breezy, and not too complicated to make actually. So I hope you guys enjoyed this project. Give it a thumbs up if you did. If you recreate this, don't forget to tag me as usual on social media so we can celebrate each other's work and progress. And until next time, have a good morning, afternoon, and evening wherever you are. Bye.